what got me into reselling over 8 years ago. Is that not so adorable? Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Quenby, the Grateful Queen, here on YouTube, and today I have a really special video for you. This is actually a collaboration video, so what that means is I'm working with several other YouTube channels, reselling YouTube channels, and we're all going to talk on the same theme. So the theme of our video today is our personal journey of reselling. So I coordinated this video collaboration and I asked people to speak on their why. Why did they start reselling? Why do they continue? Part of the answer for many of us is the extra income. This is a business, either full-time or part-time, that brings in extra income. I think the reasons people actually stay in reselling are often their very unique stories. And so I thought this would be an opportunity for our viewers to get to know us a little bit better on a personal level as we share our stories of reselling. So I'm going to shout out the other YouTubers that are involved in this collaboration, but their links to their channels are in my description section below. So my hope is that you'll watch this video, and then I'd love it if you click the links in the description below and watch my fellow reselling YouTube channels also talk on the same subject. Who are the other reselling YouTube channels that are participating in this collab? We have Angie, the Reseller Mom Show,
Nashville Flippers,
Lauravonv, PoshBossBlake, and Sellquickshipquick. So be sure to click the links below to their channels. So I have kind of a cute story about how I started reselling initially on eBay, so I'll share that story with you. And then I have some other stories about what has kept me reselling for over 8 years now, some sort of deeper, meaningful reasons that my reselling business has supported me financially, emotionally, socially, spiritually, so I'm gonna get into those parts of the story as well. But I initially started reselling because when my son was a newborn, some family members got us these really high quality kids pajamas. They're by the brand Hanna Andersson and they're made of organic cotton. They're usually made of Pima cotton in Peru, which is the highest quality cotton. And babies grow so fast, so we started really outgrowing the pajamas and I wanted to buy more. So I went online and realized that Hanna Andersson pajamas cost $45. And I didn't want to spend that much. So I started looking elsewhere to find these pajamas, and that's how I discovered eBay. And I realized I could get 2 pair of pajamas by Hanna Andersson for the price of 1. So I bought him some pajamas on eBay, and then I realized I could sell the stuff he'd outgrown in order to buy him new pajamas. And I found these when I was in the garage cleaning out the other day. This is one of the original pairs. Is that not so adorable? This is what got me into reselling over 8 years ago. And so what happened from there was I started selling his clothes and buying him new clothes. So it was all about baby clothes for me in the beginning. My first eBay store name was Sweet Pea Baby Clothes. And I thought I was just gonna stick with that. But then I started making more and more money. So I had a lot of money in my PayPal account. And it took me a little while. I was kind of slow to the game, you guys. It took me a little while to realize, oh my gosh, there's women's clothes on here too. I could get stuff for me. So I started selling some of my clothing and then buying other clothing for myself and my husband and my son. So it wasn't really a full business in the beginning. I didn't even intend it to be. It was more of a hobby and a way for me to recycle and reuse clothes. I also like expensive shoes. And my favorite brand is Free People, which if you've ever gone to Macy's and tried to buy a Free People top like the one I have on, it's like $128. I don't like to spend that much. So it was a great way for me to get some of the higher end expensive clothes and shoes that I like. But what started happening was I was making a lot more than I could possibly spend on myself and my family. So I started putting away some of the money, and it kind of dawned on me that this could be a really great side hustle, and it was work I enjoyed. I really love thrift store shopping. I grew up with my mom always taking us to thrift stores. She worked in a lot of consignment stores when I was growing up, so I've been around that my whole life. And if there's one thing I love to do most, it's thrifting. No matter what's going on, if I have an opportunity to pull over at a Salvation Army or a church thrift store, it takes my mind off everything. I really enjoy it. I love the treasure hunt. So it was a really good fit for me. So then if you fast forward a few years, I was working full-time at hospice. I'm a psychotherapist. I specialize with children. That's not something I've talked a lot about because it's a very different part of myself, a very different identity than my reseller identity that I put out on this YouTube channel and on Instagram, on social media. But I was working at hospice in the bereavement department. I was a grief counselor and I coordinated the kids program, and it was a job I absolutely loved. I ran a lot of grief support groups. I worked with other therapists. I worked in the schools a lot. I actually wrote the grant that got my position started in a program where I would go into the schools and do grief support groups for kids with loss there. I absolutely love this job. I never intended on leaving. I was there 10 years. But what started happening was that I realized as my son got a little bit older, and he was 5 and he entered kindergarten, I felt like he really needed me more. That's not true for every kid and every parent, but in my case, I just felt like with him going to school and he got out of kindergarten at 1:20, I wanted to work from home. So that was a time I relied on my reselling business once again to kind of support me and my family as I made the transition from leaving hospice to working from home. So I had made a lot of contacts in the community and with the schools, so I didn't think that starting a private practice in psychotherapy was going to be too challenging for me, but I needed to know if I was going to leave a really great job at hospice with excellent benefits and good pay, that I was going to be able to still support myself and bring in money for my family while I made the transition from hospice to doing private practice from home. So what I started doing was just really working hard on my reselling business. And at this time I was just on eBay and I was just selling clothes. But I wanted to know that I could make a few $1,000s a month when I left my job and my benefits in order to be at home more. So I just started doing both jobs pretty hard and made sure that I could make a few $1,000s a month, which I realized I could. The great thing about reselling is, well, it's the great thing and it's the hard thing. The more you work, the more you earn. Because the more you list on eBay or whatever platform, the more money you're gonna make. So I was working at night, taking pictures and making listings. I would stop on my lunch break at work and run into a thrift store for 30 minutes to get inventory. So I was really doubling down for a while there. But I'm so thankful that I had the reselling and that allowed me to make enough money to feel like I could leave my job at hospice and me and my family would be okay. I really relied on my reselling business to support me financially while I built my private practice, and I'm really so grateful for that. There are a lot of moms like me and dads who realize they want to be at home, maybe a little more available, have a more flexible schedule for their kids. And so I was able to pick my son up after school. I was able to volunteer in his classroom. I was just able to give him more, and I really felt like he needed that. So for me, that's been a really meaningful reason that I've stayed with reselling. I can work out of my house. The more I work, the more I make, so I can control my income a bit. It's very flexible. You can work whenever you need to. So it's a great gig for parents.
Oh, Jerry, you must subscribe to Grateful Queen. It's so amazing. I'm going to go subscribe and turn on notifications. Okay, they're on. Did you do a thumbs up? Yes, I did a thumbs up. Wait, subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications and like.
For a few years, working from home, doing my private practice and my reselling gig was working great. But sadly, my husband and I started feeling the stress of being two full-time working parents and having a very energetic, fantastic, but challenging son. And we started to feel a lot of stress in our marriage. I'm just going to get a little bit more vulnerable with you guys now and share that after 15 years of marriage, the last couple years we've been separated and going through divorce. And this is a time that I really, once again, relied on my reselling business, but in a bit of a different way. If you've ever gone through divorce or know anyone who has, it is life altering. It's the most challenging thing I've had in my adult life. I'm 43 years old. I was with my husband 15 years. It was not a divorce that I wanted, and I fought in every way that I could to save my marriage with therapy and everything else you can think of. But something I've learned at this stage of life is you can only control your side of the equation. As I've been going through divorce the last couple years, it's been really great to reach out to the reselling community. I've not been involved on social media much at all. I didn't even know that there was such an amazing, supportive reseller community out there. I mean, when I first started all this, there were only a few YouTube reselling channels. I used to watch Nicole State and Rakin Profit and Suzanne Wells, but there were not as many channels as we have now for education and support. But I really, because I've been going through a hard time, it was really great to be able to plug into the community and have a really great, healthy distraction. I started this YouTube channel, and that's been amazing because I've got to talk to all of you and learn about your businesses, and I don't feel as isolated. I think I was working in isolation as a reseller for so many years because I didn't know to plug into Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and I think in many ways, this reselling business and the community here has really saved me. I've loved being able to connect with people, and people now, because I have this channel, reach out to me and ask me reselling questions. So I feel like I'm in a position of being able to maybe give back now and be an educator and help people. I've been selling for 8 years, so that's a good amount of time. I've been on eBay for more than 8 years now, and Poshmark about 1.5 years. So I love being able to share my experience with other people, and I'm constantly learning. That's one of the things I absolutely love, and one of the reasons I stay with reselling is that there's infinite potential for learning. I'm always learning a new market. Like right now, for the first time, I'm learning about buying and selling jewelry and photographing jewelry and learning about what stones are in jewelry and how things are made. And for me, that's really satisfying. So yes, I love reselling for the extra income. Yes, I run it like a business and I rely on the income now as a side hustle. But I think the reasons I've stayed with reselling is because there's so much opportunity for growth. It's a project that can grow all the time for you. But the biggest learning for me is that it is very cool to hang out with people that understand your job. I think many people, when they hear you resell online, they're like, really don't quite understand what you do. So when I first got on Instagram about 6 months ago and saw all these people making reselling jokes, I was like, oh my gosh, somebody else gets what I do. And that feeling of not being alone and isolated in what you're doing, but having a whole group of other people who get you and get your business and you can connect with them, that's really amazing. That has been such a blessing for me, especially at kind of a hard time in my life, to have this network of other resellers. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Why do you resell? What is your why? How did you get into it? But also, why have you stayed with it? A little bit about your journey. I would be really interested in hearing that. Thank you so much for being willing to listen to my story. So now's the time to go down below this video into the description section where I've provided links to the other very cool resellers who are going to be talking on the same theme of why they resell, how they got into it, and why they continue. Be sure to watch their videos, subscribe, leave comments. It's really fun. Definitely join in. We would love to hear from you in the comments. Be sure to subscribe. And thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in my next video.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit it. Punch it.